Good morning, this is World News coming to you live from Warsaw. I am Adam Yasa. Presidents Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy were supposed to sign a crucial minerals deal on Friday, but instead their meeting in the Oval Office turned into a shouting match. The Ukrainian leader had to confront falsehoods and arm twisting from his American hosts. The two presidents and J.D. Vance openly argued on live television.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
The Oval Office has probably never seen scenes like this. The presidents of two allied countries clashed in front of cameras.
This is going to be great television, I will say that.
The argument ignited after the US vice president lauded Trump for engaging in diplomacy with the Russian president. Zelenskyy stood his ground and pointed out the many instances when Vladimir Putin has broken promises and ignored agreements, including during Trump's previous presidency.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
It was clearly visible as the provocation, and you want to believe that it was not specially done, but you cannot skip this feeling.
After the clash, the visit was cut short, as President Zelenskyy was reportedly asked to leave the White House.
I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand.
The Ukrainian president later admitted that he regrets what happened at the Oval Office.
I respect American people, and I think that we have to be very open and very honest, and I'm not sure that we did something bad.
The US-Ukraine deal on mineral extraction was left unsigned.
Clearly, the president and the vice president were engaged in public theater, but it's not clear what their objective is because, again, the terms of the deal, aside from the broad 50%, are unclear.
Zelenskyy was accused of being ungrateful in the White House.
Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America.
As other leaders expressed solidarity with Ukraine after the fateful visit to the Oval Office, President Zelenskyy made sure to say thank you to each of them.
Now let's listen to expressions of support and solidarity from European leaders to Ukraine.
Dear President Zelenskyy, dear Ukrainian friends, you are not alone. Trump and Vance have put on a disgraceful show. I am ashamed of that behavior. The US deserves something better. The free world must support Ukraine. I was and I still am with President Zelenskyy.
The President of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and EU Council leader, Antonio Costa, have expressed the same message of support in Ukrainian.
Your dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You will never be alone, dear President Zelenskyy. We will continue to work with you for a just and lasting peace.
Dear Volodymyr, we stand with Ukraine in good and in testing times. We must never confuse aggressor and victim in this terrible war. Sweden stands with Ukraine. You are not only fighting for your freedom, but also for all of Europe's. Slava Ukraini!
The truth is simple. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia is the aggressor. Ukraine defends its freedom and ours. We stand with Ukraine.
Ukraine is a victim of the Russian aggression. It fights the war with the help from many friends and partners. We need to spare no effort for just and lasting peace. Ukraine, you will never walk alone.
Additionally, the Czech and Polish foreign ministries published the Ukrainian flag on their X platform page.
The clash between President Zelenskyy and President Trump sent shockwaves around the world, but the reactions were particularly strong among the people of Ukraine. We now move to Kyiv to our correspondent Oz Kataji. Good morning, Oz. How did Ukrainians react to what happened yesterday?
Good morning. Well, Ukrainians are still waking up to the shocking scenes that took place on their screens last night. I will say that from my many discussions with Ukrainians over the last few months, Ukrainians were quite hopeful about the Trump administration. They saw him as being more decisive a leader than Joe Biden, and that they thought that he would lift restrictions on things like use of weaponry and on long-distance strikes. So a lot of them are shocked by what they're seeing. They did not expect this kind of treatment from their democratically elected leader, from their supposedly strongest partner in their strongest ally in Washington. So Ukrainians are quite shocked, to be honest with you, and are not taking the news that they witnessed last night well. Let's take a listen to what some Ukrainians had to say.
We have been living in World War III on and off since 2014, and from 2022 we are living in it permanently. We are being killed.
It is not Ukraine that is gambling with the Third World War, no. More likely we are being used in this game as a bargaining chip. But we will overcome, no doubt about it, with or without help, because we are a nation with a strong spirit.
I think Trump is the kind of person that doesn't listen to anyone except himself, and he doesn't want to listen to anyone.
It could have been more diplomatic, but we have what we have, and we will work closer with Europe. Still, I hope we will have good relations with the United States.
I think it was all emotions, but this is not final. Considering how flexible and how quickly Trump's emotions change, there can be many different outcomes, so it is too early to draw final conclusions now. This is not the end, as they say, it is to be continued.
So Ukrainians there are striking quite a defiant tone. Even though Zelenskyy is not as popular as he was at the beginning of the war, this kind of treatment of him is only galvanizing support for him and the Ukrainian government. So they're in a difficult position right now. But as far as the Ukrainian people are concerned, they're not going to be thrown off course or stop defending themselves because of what's happening right now in Washington. Back to you in the studio, Adam.
Thank you very much, Oz. Stay safe. After the shocking scenes in the White House, TVP World spoke to experts to explain what happened.
I would say that everything spoiled when Vice President Vance included himself in the conversation suddenly when nobody really expected. And when I just tried to watch it for the second time, it was clearly visible as the provocation. And you want to believe that it was not specially done, but you cannot skip this feeling. Because originally that was quite a good contact, good words about Ukraine, but then it started just the false accusations that been surprised for the whole audience in the room.
Clearly, the president and the vice president were engaged in public theater, but it's not clear what their objective is because, again, the terms of the deal, aside from the broad 50%, are unclear. The specifics that may be at issue are unclear. I myself am coming with some interpretations, but I think it's premature to fully flesh those out. But it has certainly put enormous pressure on the president of Ukraine and the Ukraine generally to respond.
In Bucharest, a vote of no confidence against Romanian Prime Minister Marcel Ciolaku failed on Friday, as tensions in the Balkan country remain high, following a cancelled presidential vote last November.
This has been a roller coaster week in Romania. First, the detainment of presidential candidate Călin Georgescu, followed by the release of the Tate brothers, and then a motion of censure for the government.
So it's a very, let's say, entertaining telenovela from those from the outside, but it's a very sad reality and storytelling for the ones on the inside.
The last installment of political turmoil in Romania concerned a no-confidence vote for Marcel Ciolaku's government. Initiated by the right-wing parties, it failed, but sought to undermine support for the ruling coalition ahead of presidential elections that will be held in May.
Let me explain to you the reasons why you have to leave. You made a mockery of the organization of all the elections in 2024.
The first round of 2024 presidential elections was declared void by the country's constitutional court. The unexpected and controversial winner of this ballot, Călin Georgescu, who is now leading the polls ahead of a rerun, was detained and accused of forming an organization aiming to undermine the democratic order and of providing false information about his presidential campaign financing. After 4 hours of questioning, Georgescu was eventually released. It may again be up to the Constitutional Court to decide whether he'll be allowed to run. However,
Romania cares a lot about the US, and unfortunately for our current mainstream political class, several elements within the ruling conservative class in the US seem to be favoring a candidacy of Mr. Georgescu.
This US preference for an alternative political class in Romania was explicitly pronounced during the Munich Security Conference.
Now we're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors.
But it now seems that pressure from Bucharest's partner across the Atlantic convinced the government to lift a ban on travel for the Tate brothers, an influencer duo accused of human trafficking and forming an organized criminal group.
We do know that there has been pressure placed on the Romanians, that they have been coerced into doing this. The Trump administration is quite shocking that they would do so, but equally Romania should be ashamed and embarrassed for having kowtowed to Trump's bullying.
And all this happens within the alliance. Romania has been a NATO country since 2004. It hosts the US ballistic missile defense system and is currently developing its military air base in Constanta, which is set to become the largest NATO military base in Europe by 2040. Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
Pope Francis suffered a major respiratory episode and was put on a breathing machine on Friday. He has been experiencing health problems since mid-February, prompting millions of faithful worldwide to pray for his recovery.
Thousands of faithful gathered at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City to pray for Pope Francis.
I pray every night for him, for his health, because we need him. Not only we Italian, but the world, the whole world needs him, because he's a man of peace, and the world needs peace.
I feel sad about what's going on with him right now, because apart from his being a pope, he's also human.
Pope Francis was first admitted to a hospital 2 weeks ago after being plagued by a string of lung-related medical struggles, including bronchitis and then pneumonia.
We haven't seen the Pope in public in 2 weeks. It's the longest stretch of his papacy, over 12 years, that we haven't seen an image of the Pope. But he's clearly resting, clearly getting better, and we're waiting for the latest Vatican update to see if he's still getting improvements and how he's doing.
The pontiff has a lifelong history of respiratory problems, having contracted pneumonia at a young age. His current hospitalization is his fourth and now longest stay since becoming pope in 2013.
A Czech freight train carrying the toxic chemical benzene caught fire after derailing in the eastern Czech region of Přerov on Friday. Thick 20-meter-high plumes of smoke enveloped the area as firefighters tried to contain the blaze. 15 out of 17 tankers carrying benzene caught fire, which also spread to the nearby electrical substation, causing a power outage in the area. Foam, water hoses and a helicopter helped bring the fire under control after several hours. The cause of the accident is not yet known and the investigation is ongoing. The ultimate goal is human on the moon and then Mars, said NASA scientist Ryan Watkins, as 2 spacecraft are on their way to deliver NASA technology to the lunar surface. President Donald Trump promised to conquer Mars in his inauguration speech in January.
On one hand, there's the science, the learning about our nearest neighbor, how it formed, evolved, because a lot of this can tell us about the early history and formation of our own planet. So, it's learning a lot about, the Earth-Moon system. But like you said, there's also, the ultimate goal of having a more sustained human presence on the moon, having humans live and work on the lunar surface for long periods of time, and ultimately to get ready to send humans to Mars as well. So a lot of the technologies that we're sending to the lunar surface, we're learning how to use these, and then we ultimately want to use them as we go forward to Mars. So that is the ultimate goal, is humans on the moon and then Mars.
This was World News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned.